So Brad and I are getting going here, and we were just talking about Hammond Hill, one of my favorite subjects. And I mean that literally. I still have total confidence in Hammond Hill, and I'm sure you do too, Brad. But it
Mhm.
does need some additional work. And just before we got going, Brad mentioned that he would like to hire somebody in marketing that would really be good at what they do. And then I chirped in and started recording that I hired a young Englishman by the name of Michael Swatton, who's really good at marketing, and he's very diligent. I mean, he's smart, and he doesn't miss things, and he's really good. And so one of the things that I think I could help with, again, only if you and Nick and Aaron want that, is and we've talked about it now for at least a month or two, is more medium-term rentals.
Mhm.
And I did talk to some of the other owners at Hammond Hill about it, two or three anyway, and I'll probably talk to some more. And I think they're pretty keen.
Mhm.
And and again, this is not a criticism of anybody, not of you or Aaron or Nick, but I like the Park Bridge model, frankly, better than the campground model. The Park Bridge model, as you know, is it's not exclusively long-term rentals, but it's certainly, seasonal rentals and not overnight rentals. So it's more
Right.
medium-term rentals, which is consistent, as I understand it, with the zoning.
Yes.
So
Yes. If we can move to more medium term and longer term rentals, we would absolutely do that.
yeah, I think long-term rentals are not at the moment allowed under your zoning, but certainly we can do medium-term rentals.
We can do 6 months at a time and people can leave for a week.
Yeah, exactly, or a day.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that, and people will do that anyway. So I wanted to share my screen with you just for a moment, and I'll show you. Um, uh, so Michael has been. No, that's not. Michael has been running some very simple ads on Craigslist, Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, a few other places. Just as I'm trying to get Trailhouse on site, which you and Aaron and Nick are helping me with, right?
Hmm.
Because I've been paying the Royal Bank of Canada about actually about $1,100 a month in financing on the damn thing since June of last year. So it'd be nice to get it on site, right?
Hmm.
And so we can make a little bit of money. Anyway, so I'll just show you what we've been running, and we've been getting a lot of response. Be part of a new tiny home village at Eco Wilderness Retreat, 37 minutes east of Ottawa International Airport. That's Hammond Hill. And this is for Trailhouse, which is our tiny home. Trailhouse at Hammond Hill Wilderness Retreat is the ideal tiny home getaway. Enjoy all the amenities of Hammond Hill while experiencing tiny house living for yourself in a community of like-minded settlers. That term settlers came from Nick.
I like that.
I like it too. Well, that's not my term. I stole that from Nick Cripps. Available May 1st for $1,600 a month plus HST. Now, we have to charge HST on medium-term rentals, right?
Hmm.
And we do that in order to qualify for an input tax credit from our purchase. Okay, that's clear as mud, right?
Yep.
With a term of 1 to 6 months, note there's a discount applied to guest stays of 3 or more months. Ask us about that. Sleeps up to 4 persons. So this is now specific to Trailhouse south facing and adjacent to pond. You can sit by the water and enjoy nature while outdoor music plays melodically in the background. Because I think we added the speakers as part of our tech package.
Hmm.
Comes with advanced tech package and full-on internet with HD TV. So we put a TV in there. That was part of the tech package we paid for. Designed by a super host homemaker, that would be my wife, who understands what it takes to make tiny living comfortable and practical, but fun too. Then there's this little map that you guys made some time ago, which shows where site 19 is. And I apologize for reading it, but if there's anything in this ad that's wrong or you wanted me to change, this is the time to do it. But we've been
Yep.
running. Hammond Hill is the first eco experience, a wilderness retreat of its kind in Canada. That just came, I think, from your website. It features a tiny home community nestled in 62 acres of mature woodland with walking trails, swimming, tiki hut, food truck, snowmobiling, snowshoeing, tobogganing, cross-country skiing, skating. I did not add, sandboarding, but I could. Hammond Hill is an environmentally sustainable retreat for families from everywhere and anywhere. Enjoy on-site amenities, including beer garden, beach volleyball, yoga in the forest, weddings and wedding venues, concerts, and more. Note there is also a golf course, craft brewery, meeting space, and restaurant next door. Just 30 minutes east of Ottawa International Airport. Experiences available at Hammond Hill this year include Stars and Guitars, Outdoor Market, the Hammond Hill Food Truck, Whiskey Wonderland and Summer Spirits, Canadian-made entrepreneurs, spotlight on Hammond Hill, join the haunted forest walk at Hammond Hill every fall, and much more. Reply to this ad directly. So that's the ad we've been running. Was there anything in there that I overstated or misstated?
Nope, it's good.
All right. So now we have a list of people who are interested. And again, I understand, Brad, you and I are very different people, which is a good thing. And you're much more of a techie than I am. So what I mean, if I'm going to help, and Michael Swanton is going to help, which we would like to do, provide more medium-term rentals. What I would really like to have is I'd like to have a big map on this board here behind me, showing each of the tiny houses where investors are and who wants to have a medium-term rental guest. And I asked you about that, and I realized afterwards that was asking maybe too much.
Well, every tiny homeowner wants medium-term guests, so it's all the listed properties on the map are available for medium-term rentals.
Okay. Where would I find the list of tiny homes at Hammond Hill now?
Yep, it's just on the main website. You click book now, and then it brings you to the map.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen again, just so I make sure I understand how to find them. So how's your family, by the way?
Good. Yep, no issues. Just a little bit of sickness. It's that time of year.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Where do I go now to see all the tiny homes?
Just press the search button. I'll just put in our random date. You'll need to check out. Yeah, there we go. So click view on map on the left side.
Oh, this is cool. So these are all the tiny homes here.
Yes.
The stuff that we can help with would be the tiny homes. We're not going to rent yurts or jupes.
Right.
Because these are people who will stay anywhere from a minimum of 1 month to a maximum of 6.
Right.
So all of these rectangles are tiny homes?
Yes, and I don't know why it's not loading, but when it loads up, it'll show you the ones that are available. But I could take a screenshot of it and just sort of mark them if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I just reloaded it. Doesn't show. So over here on the left-hand side, we have site types, right? Bluebell.
It might be because of the dates. Let me fiddle with it, Bruce. I'm going to take a note to get you a map.
Well, Brad, I really love you guys, and I don't want to interfere with what you're doing. I just know, because I have in a way maybe more experience than you guys do, that if I had 25 tiny homes at the barn dominium, I would have every single one of them rented, medium-term rental, every one of them. I have completed at the barn dominium 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got, I think, 5 cabins there on the 2 sites, and I could put one more, so I'll have 6, tiny homes or small cabins. Because I can have 3 on each of one of my sites. I've got 2 lots there, so I can have 6. I've got 5 now. And when I put one up for medium-term rental, I get a lot of interest, you know. So I'm sure if I had 20 or 25, I could rent them all. So that's all I'm trying to do, is build a community with you and for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know,
Leave that with me. I'll get a map.
if you don't mind, and would it be possible? I mean, I know I introduced about 7 or 8 people to Hammond Hill, so I know who they are. But I mean, again, I don't want to interfere, but would it be possible for me to communicate directly with them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, I know I'm asking a lot, but if you could give me a map and say, okay, here's how many do you have in total at Hammond Hill now on site?
We have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So 10 tiny homes are on site now, correct?
Yes.
All right, and hopefully Trail House this month, right?
Yes.
Plus Trail House. Okay, so we'll have 11 by May 1st. Is that sort of your thought as well?
Yeah, again, I'll confirm the exact numbers when I do the map.
All right. So if you, again, I feel bad asking you to do all this extra work, but if you had 11 homes, including Trail House, you could say Trail House, Don Firestone, and you know, I guess Don and his wife have, I think they have 2. So, you know, if you could put the names down next to on the map of who owns them, and
So they've all agreed to medium-term rentals. So I don't think you really need to communicate directly with them. The person you need to communicate with is Shannon. She's the on-site GM. She sort of handles all the bookings and
I absolutely will go through Shannon, but if I have your permission, I will communicate directly with the owners as well. There's a reason for that, which I'm going to explain in a minute.
okay.
But if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. I mean, I'll just go through Shannon, but I think it will help you and Aaron and Nick if you allow me to talk to the owners.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. Again, I'm just trying to be helpful, all right?
Mhm.
And so let's go back to my map, if I can find it. Yeah, this one here. So this is the map that that I have here, and I think there are a total of 21 sites, right? For tiny homes.
Well, we have phase 2, so we have room for 50, but
But right now, you know, we have 10 on site now, excuse me, and an 11th hopefully this month. So we have 11 maybe plus or minus.
Mhm.
If I look at the map here, actually it looks like there's 24 sites.
Mhm.
Out from the 10 or 11 that will be on site at the end of this month, have the others been sold?
No, not the 24, just the 14 or so that are in the pipeline. Well, 10 are on site now, and then we still have others in the pipeline that are
Yeah,
being
okay.
built.
So basically, and there's potential for 24 sites for tiny homes. So you could sell 10 more, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I got a plan for that too. All right.
Okay.
First, I think the first priority, just given the feedback I've been getting from some of the owners, the first thing to do is to focus on medium-term rentals. Just fill it up with what Nick calls settlers. Once that's done, and we're booting along, you know, there'll be some more sales. You know, between your other people and me and maybe Michael Swatton as well, and of course Nick, we'll sell the other 10. All right. So that'll
Right.
be a focus of mine to help you with that. But I have another question for you.
Sure.
All right. You notice what this is called, right? The future outdoor market.
Yes.
What I was thinking would help the park and would help you guys would be to do more of this. And I'll show you. So you remember this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a little workshop that I bought from North Country Sheds. My daughter has her little home here, and that's her little workshop there. We buy those workshops for about $10,000 or $12,000 from North Country Sheds. They're 2x6 construction. They are insulated underneath, and they're delivered fully assembled on site. But then what we do is we add electrical. And we spray foam it. I think actually Aaron did that for us. I don't know. These are just a bunch of pictures. And this is what it looks like today. All right. And one of the things I was thinking of, and again, to help the park, but also to help the owners, is whether or not you and Aaron and Nick would consider allowing some of the owners to buy their own workshops. I mean, they could buy them from you guys, but they could buy them from North Country Sheds, put them on where the outdoor market is, so that they could offer a tiny home on site, in one of these sites, and a workshop if people want that.
That's an interesting idea. We'd need some pretty strict rules around noise and machinery.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look again at this, what we would do is we'd have rules, obviously, in the agreements. And don't forget, these are commercial agreements, and all of the workshops that I've run, every single one of them is month to month. So if I don't like them, in 15 days, I can get rid of them.
Yeah.
Right. So if they were new, I mean, I do have a bunch of rules in my leases, but if they don't obey those rules for some reason, or they don't pay, I do kick them out. I haven't had to do that yet, but I have the right to do that in 15 days. I wouldn't do it in 15 days. I would give people a month to leave. I did actually provide notice to one of my tenants who was a bit noisy, actually. So I have done it actually once, and I gave him 30 days to vacate, and he did. But otherwise, I could just lock them out, right? So it's not like residential. So to some extent, though, like, we would pick and choose. Like, for example, let's say a registered massage therapist wanted to rent one of these workshops, right? That's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Right. And the ROI on this is probably a hell of a lot better than anything else I've done.
Yeah, for sure.
This is about a $30,000 investment when you finish with it. And I've rented them for between $700 and $1,000 a month. So what I was thinking is that if you and Aaron and Nick agreed, and I would certainly talk to some of the other owners about putting these on that particular location, and they would pay land rent like anybody else.
Yeah, I'm taking a note of this. Let me chat about it with the team. Generally, I'm supportive of it. I want to make sure that we still have room for the markets, because those will be big revenue generators as well. So
yeah. Well, these guys, some of them will be part of the market, like, I mean, if you're a registered massage therapist, for example, people who come to the Hill might like to go and, get a massage, or if you're running a flea market, I guess you don't call it that. What did you call it? You had a better term for it.
Farmers market?
No, outdoor market. You just call it on the map. You just call it outdoor market.
Mm-hmm.
That's a much better term than flea market. Flea market, everybody thinks of trash and trinkets, right? So anyway, I'm just thinking that if I could talk directly to the existing owners and future owners, and we would not do 30 of them, we would do 3. We would put 3 on there, make sure that you guys were happy with it and the owners were happy with it. In other words, we would take like the military say, we would suck it and see, right? You do a little bit. If it tastes good, you do more of it. If it tastes sour, you stop doing it, right?
Yeah.
So something like that. Can you think about it?
Yeah, I took a note. I'll chat with the team about it.
All right. I like that term. I'm writing it down. Outdoor market. Okay. Then I really like the idea of small living company having territorial sales agreements for people who, like, I coach people in friggin' Idaho California, Texas, Florida, obviously across Canada. Do you actually have a formal agreement yet?
No, it's just something we've talked about it in principle. So no, we don't have anything formal.
So I think that would be worthwhile, coming up with a territorial sales agreement, or call it a commission sales agreement, whatever you want. But I think that would be worth having. And if you had that, I would certainly give it to a number of people in Canada and the United States that I think could benefit from it.
Yep. And like I have no experience in this kind of thing, so we might need some advice on how to set it up.
Yeah, I mean, well, in my opinion, I think to make it really work, I think you would offer a territorial sales agreement with a commission, or you can't call it commission because then you'd have to be licensed realtors, with a referral fee of 5%.
Mhm.
I know that's a little higher than you would want, but if you're selling something for $130,000, a Vanguard for 130 or whatever, 5% fee, is what is that? That's $6,500 plus HST. That's enough to make people take note. Because there are people I know, who now they can't sell 50 of them, but they could sell anywhere from 2 or 3 to maybe 10 a year. And
Yes,
so if and probably I'll be able to sell 10 somehow or other. And if I could make 5%, that would add to my income too. So
absolutely.
10% is too high a referral fee for you guys. $3,500 is probably not enough. So I would recommend 5%.
Okay. Yeah, I know you and Nick are sitting down on Friday to chat about that
Yeah,
too.
I know, but you're the boss, really. And you're the brainiac. So I wanted to make sure I'm on the same wavelength with my friend Cartier. All right, so that will be my recommendation to Nick. In terms of territorial sales agreements, I've done a few over the years, and what we do is in small towns, we would probably just have one representative. So, in a town like Port Hope, which is about 15,000 people, you just have one rep.
Got it.
But in a city like Toronto, you might have, 10, because Toronto's so humongous. And what you don't do, Brad, and this is important, at least in my opinion, what you don't do with territorial sales agreements is, let's say you have Toronto, you don't say, okay, you've got this part of Toronto, and then Aaron's got this part, and Bill's got this part, and Mary's got this part. You simply limit the number of distributors you have in the whole city. And the reason you do that is you don't want to have 150 dealers. Then they're crossing, they're tripping over each other. But
Yeah.
what you have is, say you have 10 or 12 dealers, territorial sales agreements in Toronto. It's the entire region of Toronto belongs to all 12 of those. And the reason you do it that way is that if somebody from the east side of Toronto calls up somebody on the west side of Toronto, he or she doesn't have to say, oh, I can't deal with you. Do you understand?
Yep.
And you limit the competition amongst your dealers by limiting the number of dealers, but not their actual territories within a city. That works a lot better. Otherwise, everybody's going to get frustrated. The buyers will get frustrated.
Yeah. Nope, makes sense.
All right. Okay. If that's something you want to do, I would definitely help with that, and I would certainly. I'm sure I can find you some dealers from my network, because it's
Perfect.
a terrific opportunity. Realtors will like it. People who have land will like it. If you have a parking lot somewhere, you can have a Vanguard, or what was the other one called? The Maple, I think.
Mhm.
You can have a Vanguard and a Maple there. If and I think, some of my clients are RV dealers, and I haven't talked to them yet about it, but because I needed your permission. But if I was an RV dealer, why not have a couple of tiny homes?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Never even thought of that.
Well, as long as it doesn't, breach their agreements with their manufacturers. I mean, lots of people who go to RV dealers, I think, would would say, oh, that's great. I'll buy an RV because I want to, go to Arizona every year, but I'll buy a tiny home for my cottage.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's another source of dealerships, the RV dealers, and I think I'll certainly talk to Nick about that as well. Okay, now I have another question for you.
Okay.
Are you adding serial numbers to your tiny homes?
Like VIN numbers?
Well, you have VIN numbers because of the because of the trailers, right?
Right.
But one of the things that I have discovered, just going to sit for a minute. One of the things that I have discovered is that I thought serial numbers were something like regulated. It turns out that's not the case. That small living company can give each one of their buildings, the little pioneer cabins that you make, every one of your tiny homes, in addition to having a VIN number, well, if you have a trailer, but if somebody takes their tiny home off a trailer and they put it on, say, screw piles, right? Then the VIN number and the cabin or the tiny home become two separate things. And so what I did was I did a little bit of research and I talked to my good friend ChatGPT, and which is a lot smarter than I am, which isn't hard these days. So this is what I asked ChatGPT. I am a manufacturer and want to add serial numbers to my products. What should I consider when creating a serial number? Uniqueness, format, consistency, scannability, security, traceability, durability, regulatory compliance. Check if there are regulatory requirements or industry standards related to serial numbers for your particular type of product. Turns out, my research says there is no regulatory authorities when it comes to cabins or tiny homes. Database management, customer engagement. Then I asked ChatGPT to show me some sample, what do serial numbers look like? Well, they can take alphanumeric, right? And they can be serial numbers. They can be, all year and year based and month and whatever. They can have barcodes. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that I learned about serial numbers. And you know what ATCO trailers are, right?
Yep.
They have serial numbers.
Okay.
And rail cars have serial numbers. And RVs obviously have serial numbers. They have VIN numbers. But VIN numbers are regulated. But ATCO's serial numbers on their trailers, that is simply company supplied. So on every cabin that you produce, every shed that you produce, every structure that you produce, including the tiny homes that you put on your trailers, I think you give them serial numbers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the one requirement, and I'll send you this stuff that my little ChatGPT chat, so you can look at it. But I think you do that. The one thing that you have to do, though, is you have to have a robust system of storing that data.
Yeah,
right?
Tracking it.
Yeah, because sometimes what will happen is people will actually steal these things, right? I mean, the thieves will steal anything. And so, you're the tech guy, you'll figure out how to store these things rather, think about how many people have Bitcoin on their hard drive and somebody steals their computer and that's it.
It's gone.
It's gone. I remember reading about one guy had like $3 million worth of Bitcoin on his computer and he threw it out. It ended up in a dump somewhere.
That's crazy.
So I mean, probably the best way to keep track of serial numbers is actually on a distributed basis, using, oh my God, not Bitcoin, what is it called? Jesus, blockchain.
Blockchain, yeah.
But whatever you do, you'd have to, if you're going to do serial numbers, you have to be serious about it. And you just get a metal plate, you stamp a number on it and bolt it somewhere. where it's not necessarily on the side where everybody can see it. You know, it might be underneath where you know where it is, right?
Yeah.
What you
And
don't want
before, go ahead.
you don't want people prying it off and taking it, right? So you put it
Yeah.
some standard location up underneath on the corner of one of your buildings, or but that would also help tremendously with financing.
With the serial numbers? So, because it's more trackable? Got it.
Remember what I told you about how to finance tiny homes, and you guys are doing it now, right? You're giving manufacturers rebates.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you and I went through that in quite some detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me show you something that we have just completed. Yeah, let me sorry, go ahead.
The one thing before I forget, I just want to make sure it's recorded and we can chat with maybe Michael about it as well, but a really good sales vertical for Hammond Hill. We just signed on our first festival. So they're going to have 3,000 people there. They're for over 2 days. They're going to do shuttles, and the fees associated with hosting a festival are quite high. So it's very good revenue for the hill, and they book up all of the accommodations.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? What is the festival?
It's called CanFest. It's a cannabis festival, actually.
Okay, that's cool.
And they want to sign a multi-year agreement as well. Like they want to have it
isn't
there
that
every
wonderful? When is it happening?
September 20th, I believe.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not opposed. So I'll show you what we just completed here in our backyard at 14 Riverbrook. So this is a little 160 square foot shed, Brad, that my wife actually bought from North Country Sheds.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the inside now. So it's a little micro suite in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bed. That's the little kitchen. And that's the shower. It's not completely finished yet. That's just a picture of it. It's got I think that's one of Aaron's that we bought from him. It's got a little desk area, work area, some games on the wall. It's got Google Mesh, so good internet. That's a picture of the little fridge, the microwave, the TV. Dawn got a lot in 160 square feet.
She's great.
She's really good at what she does. These are the guys who built it. We're just going back in time now. A little cupboard. So the reason I show you that is I really like the guys at North Country Sheds. You know, it's hard to build a nice shed for $10,000 or $12,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Delivered on site, but they can do that. I really like them, but convincing them to do anything different, they're out of Smith's Falls, and convincing them to do anything different is like it's harder than pulling teeth. All right, so their sheds do not have serial numbers, and they cannot not easily be financed.
Okay.
All right. So if every tiny home, every pioneer cabin, everything has a serial number, you can go and you can probably get financing for it. Right.
I like that. You'll send me that document?
I will. It's just Chat GPT, but it is actually very helpful. And I spent quite a bit of time on it because I want to help you, obviously, but I also want to help North Country Sheds sell. I just like those guys, and they build great stuff. But and they sell 400 buildings, 300 to 400 buildings a year, anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000. So if they average 15 grand, and they sell 400 of them, they're a $5 or $6 million a year business, which in Smith's Falls is substantial, but they could be much bigger.
Yeah.
They're just good old boys, and they just do what they do, right? So they don't really want to change. But I mean, it wouldn't take much for them to add serial numbers, which would help their clients.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. I'm just going through what I had here on my list. Let's see if I got it all on that. Yeah, I think on Hammond Hill, that was kind of it. All right, now, the second thing on your list was, you know, your raising money.
Yeah, so we're going through the motions with rethink and diversify the EMD. So it's been dragging on a little bit because we weren't really sure how to structure it, but I think we have a pretty good idea of how to structure it now. So we just sent a new proposal to them. So we'll be looking to bring in a couple $1 million on a convertible note, and create a parent company that can then expand parks and add more properties to its portfolio, where, you know, we can just apply the Hammond Hill model to different parks.
Yeah, well, I've always liked that idea. In your future endeavors, though, will you maybe have a combination of medium-term and long-term rentals with short-term rentals? Maybe, you know, not just go for the short-term stuff?
Yes, the short-term stuff is very operationally intensive, so I think we'd like to have a fairly robust component of medium and long-term rentals. Like at Eganville, for instance, the plan there was for mostly medium and long-term rentals, and then have a component of short-term rentals to that park.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, to me, it's just that is the Parkbridge model, and it made Parkbridge such a well-to-do company. You know, they I don't know what their market value is. It's something like $1 or $2 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but they do have some seasonal stuff, and they do have some short-term rental stuff. I'm not discounting that at all. And right now, I think we've talked about it. The short-term rental market seems to be saturated and seems to be a bit in the dumpster.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way,
Yes.
I was so pleased when Ashley told me that she had sold that property for you and the boys.
Yeah, yeah, no, she did a great job. We got a good price. So he
When is
actually, the
when is it closing?
end of May, I don't know the exact date, but in about a month.
Yeah, it's good.
I've been talking with the new owner. They're going to keep it as a short-term rental, and he's actually asked if our manager would stay on and he could pay him. So
Oh,
we
isn't that wonderful? That's
might
great.
might still be managing it. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, I think it'll be a little easier with hopefully with the new owner.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I won't have to deal with my partners. So that was the whole point of selling it.
I know that. Yeah, and I'm glad Ashley worked out for you, and you
Yeah,
know, she came very highly recommended. I'm so pleased. So the next round of parks might combine some short-term rentals with mostly, or at least in Eganville, mostly medium-term and long-term rentals. Okay, well, that
correct.
makes sense. The other thing I was going to ask you to think about again after today, and I promise you I will not raise it every time we speak, is whether or not in all of your communities, maybe not in Cancun, but and maybe in Cancun, I don't know, but to have some workshops as part of the model too.
Yeah. No, I think even at Hammond Hill, I'm open to it. So it's just figuring out exactly what that looks like.
Yeah, but I mean, even in Cancun, you know, again, you might have a few workshops and they would be rented to, you know, a yoga instructor. They'd be rented to somebody who wants to do registered massage therapy. I mean, you don't want to hire, you know, like if you're running a resort and you have to hire the RMT and you have to hire the yoga instructor, that is a pain in the neck. I like the idea of a small living company, it wasn't just the small living company. What was the actual operational company called? Small living
All
village?
living villages.
Yeah, small living villages. I like the idea of them being a landlord,
Hmm.
right? And just getting paid. And so that the complexity of the operation is reduced to going to the bank once a month.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I
That'd be
really
nice.
mean that. And that's why, I mean, if I had your permission, I'm going to find a way to put 3 little workshops on, you know, wherever you tell me is acceptable. And and just pay some land rent to you guys. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about leasing the damn things or buying the things or fitting them up. You just say, here's your site, give me $150 a month, I'm happy, right? See how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's easy to replicate. If it's a success, we can just keep adding them.
Yeah, and you know, to my way of thinking, we've talked about that for the Bourget train station, you and I. To my way of thinking, you know, if it's a success, the $150 a month or whatever you get for land rent isn't really where the money is. It'll be in the percentage rent.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and definitely at the train station. That makes a lot of sense.
But in terms of the amount of work for you guys, if you just have a space and you allow somebody, an investor, to put a workshop there and rent it out and pay you land rent and a percentage rent, go for it, right?
Exactly.
The amount of capital you have to deploy is very little.
Yes, exactly.
And that's kind of the Park Bridge model too, because I don't think Park Bridge, you can only buy a modular home from Park Bridge, but I don't think they build them.
No, that would be interesting to find out.
I'm pretty sure. Well, I did some work for them. It's now a few years ago, but I did some work for them, and I'm pretty sure that they don't, because the way I got introduced to Parkbridge is through Gilchrist.
Okay.
So Gilchrist, as you know, they make modular homes.
Hmm.
And so I was doing some coaching for Gilchrist, and I kept seeing this same order over and over and over again from Parkbridge. I said, "Who the hell are these guys? I'd never heard of them." And Parkbridge was a pretty big customer of Gilchrist. And then they introduced me to the Gilchrist guys, and I did a little coaching there too. I mean, it is what it is, right? And
Hmm.
and I really like those guys, but I don't think they built any of them. So what they would do is they would buy the modular homes from Gilchrist, at a wholesale price,
Mm.
and they would mark it up, and they did nothing, like they just, so a buyer would come along and say, "Well, I like that modular home. How much is it?" That's $180,000. That's 250. The buyer would buy it. They would make 40 grand, because they were buying it from Gilchrist at a wholesale price. They'd put it on the
Mm.
site. Gilchrist would actually move it. Like the guy I was coaching at Gilchrist, he was responsible for that part of their operation. And
Hmm.
so Parkbridge, they just were basically sales and marketing, right? And they make real money.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's it's such a big
So
company, but
so
it'd be
so
nice to have that symbiotic relationship between SLV and SLC.
exactly. But small living company doesn't have to build everything, right? Like I mean, if I came to Aaron tomorrow and said I'd like to have 3 small workshops on the site, I think Aaron would struggle to put something on the site like I just showed you for $12,000.
Yeah.
And I can get those from, so you have to think about, again, I don't want to interfere with anything that small living company or small living villages or Hammond Hill. I'm just making suggestions that I hope will be helpful. And if Aaron watches this, because I'm going to obviously share this link with him, and with your permission with Nick as well.
Yep.
I hope he'll understand that I'm not trying to cut small living company off at the knees. I'm just trying to help Hammond Hill and everybody here, including small living villages, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Totally good.
Okay, so rethink and diversify your a $2 million convertible note, convertible into how many shares, what interest in the company?
Yes, the convertible note will be triggered once we have our first valuation. So um, it'll be interest payments up until that point. So we don't know what that 2 million is going to represent until we get a formal valuation, but it's probably somewhere in the realm of 20 to 30% in 2 to 3 years once we have a couple lands in the SLV portfolio.
That's great. And how's Eganville? You haven't been able to close on that, I don't think yet.
No, no, we need the capital. So it's yeah, Nick's handling all that for now. I don't think it's listed yet though.
I don't think so either. I mean, I'm a part owner and I don't know how much I own, but some little percent or two, I don't remember. I mean, I gave them some money. I'd have to look on my computer. I just don't remember.
Hmm. No, it's a great property. It'd be awesome to add that to the SLV portfolio, I think.
Yep, that may come. What about our friend Dan Aranda in Mexico?
Yeah, he's doing well. We're in communication. He sold one of 2 properties in Tulum, I think, but he still has the other one and the one in Cancun. So he's still interested in providing those to SLV. It's just it requires more money than we anticipated, so it can't happen in phase one. But definitely in phase two, he's going to sell off some lots to create some capital.
Yeah.
So yeah, he seems to be doing really well. I
Yeah.
think there's a big I think there's a big opportunity to move SLC down there, given all the hospitality construction that's happening. Selling some really cool tiny homes down there would be a lot of fun.
I completely agree. My wife is in Merida right now as we speak.
Mm,
She's in the Yucatan, and
nice.
we know quite a few realtors in Merida, and there's real money in Merida. Merida's a very wealthy town. I mean, I think I told you it was extremely one of the wealthiest cities in the world, right through the 20s and 30s, and maybe even into the 40s. And then somebody invented plastic. Merida was really big in mezcal, not the drug, but the drink.
Yep.
Was huge in natural fiber rope, and huge in cattle. So it was cattle, rope, ropes for a million things, and mezcal. And then somebody invented plastic, and so plastic ropes took over, and so the rope industry went away. And then the cattle industry went away because the damn Argentines could undercut the Mexicans. Argentina has more grass, and it just has better weather for cattle. So they lost 2 out of 3 industries, and then they ignored the mezcal, and so basically Merida became like a ghost town for 40 years. It fell on hard times. And if you see some of the estates that surround Merida and are in Merida that have degraded to, very significant degree, you'd be shocked. But then sometime in the 80s and the 90s, it started to come back, tourism, entertainment, all kinds of other things. Again, textiles became much more important. So Merida is a fantastic place.
And now it has the LRT too.
It's going to have, the Yucatan will be completely, light rail will link it, and they're going to have, the Panama Canal. They'll be able to dock ships here, transport on high-speed rail the containers to the other side of the continent, and take off. So a competitor to the Panama Canal. So it has a tremendous future. Plus, on top of that, it is the second most peaceful town in North America. You've heard
Yeah, I
me
remember
say
reading
that
that.
before. The only safer town in North America is Quebec City.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Quebec City is the safest town in North America. They all know each other, right? I mean, it's a small town of 650,000 people. Maybe it's bigger than that now. It might be 800,000 now, but it's still pretty small. And everybody's a friend, right? So there's virtually no crime in Quebec City. I mean, almost none. And Merida is very similar.
Yeah.
And when my American friends say, "Oh, Mexico's dangerous," you know what I tell them, right?
It's safer than your country.
Well, it's a hell of a lot safer than walking around Detroit, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Chicago, South Central LA. I mean, in Chicago on a long weekend in the summer, will have between 70 and 85 shootings.
Yeah, it's insane.
People wounded or killed in a weekend.
Yeah.
Merida wouldn't get that in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, and
So
the Yucatan is outside of all of the drug trade routes
yeah,
and everything, so
yeah.
it's
Well, if you go to Cancun where there's young people, you will find drugs.
for sure.
But Merida is not a beach town. It's 35 kilometers inland. It's protected from hurricanes. I don't think there's been an earthquake there in 64 million years since the asteroid created the Gulf of Mexico, just coated the whole thing with lava. It's very stable geologically. It's protected, as I said, from hurricanes and tsunamis, and it's the home of the Mayan people. They're all about this tall. I mean,
Sounds like you need a little retirement home there.
well, we like we like it there. And, you know, Dawn is there with a girlfriend, and they can walk around day or night. It's just completely safe. And, you know, it has a wonderful entertainment scene. It has an incredible foodie culture. It has any number of museums. It has beautiful places to go. And it has all, you know, those cenotes. You know what a cenote is, right? It has all those cenotes. So I know some people there. Again, if you decide to do the territorial sales agreement or whatever, a commission agreement, whatever you want to call it, I'm certainly going to talk to some of the people I know in Merida, you know, because they're in that area. Think about how many people have, you know, they have cenotes, they have restaurants, but they don't have accommodation. And so people will go to the cenote. They will swim there. They will have a nice meal, beautiful meal. They will have lots of wine and lots of drinks. Ask Aaron. We did that when we were together in Merida with Dan. But there you can't crash, right? And then you have to get back in your car and drive an hour after drinking, right? It's not a good idea. So I think, yes, I love the idea of your tiny homes in Mexico. Yeah, sorry.
Those territorial agreements, are they would a company generally charge a yearly fee for that, or is it strictly just getting the sales?
It's entirely up to you. You know, some of them have territorial sales agreements that you have to pay a minimum fee, that you have to commit to a minimum number of sales, that you have to buy, you know, 2 or 3 units yourself. Because small living company is brand new, I would not put any of that in there. You know, 5 years from now, it'll be like buying a McDonald's restaurant. You know, you've proven the model, and so the people who sign up with you now, you know, like if it was me, I mean, if you had a territorial sales agreement, I would sign that tomorrow. But you know, if you ask right now, if you asked me to put up money or buy 3 more, I couldn't do it, right? But I could sell a ton of them. So right now, I think it's more important to get the sales than to get, you know, sort of a few dollars out of me or a few more sales out of me. You understand? So I'm a little conflicted on that. I'm on both sides of this equation, but as your friend and coach, trying to just put my coaching hat on, I would be more interested in having somebody. You know, I've got a really good client in Saskatoon. I'm going to ask him to take this on, right? And I'm going to say to him, with your permission, of course, here's a territorial sales agreement. You don't have to pay any fees. You don't have to commit to buying any of these things yourself. Just sell a few. You get a commission. And then, you know, my client there in Saskatoon, Greg, you know, he'll undoubtedly buy 1 or 2 for himself. There's no question about it. But I wouldn't compel him to do that.
Right. Yeah, at least initially, I think you're right.
5 years from now, like I said, you'll be the McDonald's of the business, I hope. It's still my hope. And then you can say, look, if you want a territorial sales agreement for, you know, Red Deer, you're going to have to pay $30,000, and you're going to have to commit to buying at least 1 or 2 yourself, and you're going to have to commit to selling at least 1 a month. Right? So 12 a year. I mean, that's fine. I think we do that down the road. And again, I just want to say to anybody who watches this recording, I have to declare there's some self-interest in that. All right.
Well, it's self-interest for us too. If you can sell a few of these for us, Bruce, it's
I'm going to. I'm confident, and you know, I'm not going to sell anymore until Trailhouse shows up on site, though. No, I really mean that, because I want to be able to say, look, here's mine. I rented it. I'm making a little bit of money on it, and you too can, because I you know, initially when I saw your design for the Vanguard, I wasn't really sold on it, but I've warmed up. I think you know, that Matterport tour that I think you shared with me, that is fantastic. And you know, I even got Dawn pumped up about it.
That's awesome.
All right, so I think you're doing very well. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over?
No, I think that's it for today, Bruce. Thank you.
All right, so I've got, we spent about an hour. I'll upload this to YouTube and be on your email, and Aaron and Nick probably in about an hour.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Bruce.
And keep in touch. I can help you guys. I'm sure of it. All right. As you know, I'm both a big picture guy, and I also work in the weeds. Right. Like, to me, you know, it may not sound that important, but to me, raising $2 million is very important, but you know, building Hammond Hill into an even more successful community down here in the weeds, doing one medium-term rental lease after another, I think that's important too.
Hugely important.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks again.
All right, thanks, Bruce.